Only 2 weeks away. So, how will Indy address their offensive side of the football? Which players fit the mold for the Colts, and which names do you, the fans, want to see Chris Ballard take a swing on? Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. My name is Wally, deputy editor of the site and co-host of the show. And of course, I am joined by none other than the one and only Noah Gebert, fellow co-host of the show and analyst for the site. Noah, we are 2 weeks away. We are going to be doing a live draft of the first round. We're going to be doing a live show for it, so it's going to be super exciting. But we're going to be addressing the offensive needs. Then we're going to be addressing the defensive needs. We're going to break down each position and just kind of pick, each one of us will, a guy or a player or a prospect or talent that we feel like will be a really good fit. Are these guys that are going to be drafted by the Colts? Maybe. We'll have to see. You never know what'll happen. But how are you doing, man? Draft's only 2 weeks away. It seems like just not long ago we were talking about the end of the regular season.
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm excited about the draft being 2 weeks away. It seems like the closer it gets, the longer it seems like it takes to get here. Just because we've seen all these names a million times. We've done all the mock drafts. We've seen every possible combination of picks that could happen for the Colts. So it's good to finally get into that and kind of see some results come draft time. But I think now it's a good time to really dig in, just us on this show, like digging into some of these names. I think taking a broad approach to how we're doing these next couple shows on the offensive defensive side of the ball and talking about each position group and kind of the players that they would be looking for. Maybe not specifically those players, but just kind of in a sense what they're probably wanting to come away with from the draft this year. And then, yeah, of course, we're going to get into some names, some fun names that people are going to want to talk about. And I see some on here that people are probably not going to be too excited to see. But yeah, I'm excited to get down to the nitty gritty of draft time.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we've kind of talked about it ad nauseum, but it really is just such an absolutely ridiculously critical draft. This is where Chris Ballard, it's kind of his playground. You know, he really does do a great job of scouting, and a lot of times he's right. But you're kind of hoping that this time he's not going to just take athletic traits. You really have needs that you need on, or that you have to address. But we're going to kind of dive into it here. But before we do, Yim, how you doing, man? Hello, Horseshoe Huddle fam. Good to see you. Of course, the one and only Sean Conkright. Good to see you, Tony Pelletieri. What's up? And then we gotta get to the first super chat. Yim, you are the man. Thank you so much. Maybe a hot take, maybe not. This is defense, so we'll be talking about this potentially on Monday. But Carson Swessinger, man, that is a UCLA product, absolute dog. The guy really does bring the pain. He's a great tackler. He's good with his feet. He's a good cover guy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that there's a very real possibility that they take him in round 2. I mean, they need a linebacker, and EJ Speed wasn't it. That's more of a surefire tackler right there. But we're just going to go ahead and dive into it. So, of course, we're going to start off, very simply put, with the offensive draft needs, but we're going to go ahead and hit on the quarterback. Now, this has already, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break down the current state of each position. For the Colts, and then we're going to dive into each one of our fits. Now, with the Colts right now, of course, this is just such a ridiculous story. It's gonna soar and continue soaring all the way through the offseason, and that is Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. Sam Ehlinger, of course, is no longer with the team, so I would say you probably should get yourself another quarterback. Now, it really depends on how much faith they have in Daniel Jones, not necessarily Anthony Richardson, that he can press Richardson, bring out the best in him. We'll have to see. But, I mean, tell me a little bit about what you think with the Colts quarterback situation. Very brief, because we could do 3 or 4 or 5 episodes on this.
Yeah, so Anthony Richardson obviously at the top, and then you've got your competition you brought in with Daniel Jones. And then beyond that, you've got Jason Bean, and he's the only other quarterback on the roster. And I know there's a lot of Jason Bean fans out there in Colts Nation that want to see him. Yeah, want to see him get some playing time, and would be fine going into the season with him being the unquestioned quarterback 3. I don't think that would be the worst situation in the world to have him be your quarterback 3, but in my opinion, when you don't have the for sure answer on your roster at quarterback, it never hurts to take another chance and add another lottery ticket to increase your chances of finding the guy. So I mean, just because of the investment that they have in Anthony Richardson and the investment that they made in Daniel Jones with that $14 million cap hit, I wouldn't expect this to be a huge investment in terms of draft capital being used on a quarterback, which is a little unfortunate, being the true need for quarterback at the Colts is an undisputed quarterback one. So obviously, if they were in a position with the first overall pick with Cam Ward there on the board, I think they'd be happy to turn the page from Anthony Richardson and get a fresh start at a new young quarterback. I think they'd be okay with that. But if you're not there, then your options are pretty slim. I don't think you love your chances. The guy like Jackson Dart or Shadur Sanders at 14, if either of them are there, and then but yeah, so like that's really the only thing that they could do to give direct competition to Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So we're probably looking more towards these day 3 guys or late day 2 guys that we're going to bring up a little bit later.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you really need to approach this situation carefully because, like Noah said, they are paying Daniel Jones just a ridiculous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a little crazy, 14 million, and then there's like 3 point something million in incentives. So it's a hefty contract. But I'm going to go ahead and dive into mine first here. So we'll kind of bounce them back and forth. But this first guy, the Colts literally are showing interest in.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually showing genuine interest. They've met with this guy multiple times. I believe, I hope I'm not mistaken on this. I think our own Jake Arthur, our co-deputy editor for the site, I think that he wrote about this top 30 visit. But Quinn Ewers, all right, now that's a name. I'm sure that people in the chat are gonna throw their opinions out there. Quinn Ewers. So you were talking about a guy who a lot of people believed he could be a top quarterback pick. All right. And then, of course, you're looking at his statistics. We'll go back to 2022 with Texas. 15 touchdown passes, 6 picks. Then he goes to 2023. 22 touchdown passes, 6 picks. Then you go to 2024. Now the touchdown numbers look very, very good. You got 31 touchdown passes in 14 games, 65.8% completion percentage, almost 3,500 passing yards in 14 games. I mean, he looked good, but it's those 12 interceptions. He averaged almost 1 per game. That's just not going to cut it in the NFL. And there's another quarterback on the Colts roster that actually averaged more than 1 per game named Anthony Richardson. So this is a guy that if you look at NFLDraftBuzz.com, he is projected as a 3rd rounder now. So tell me a little bit about your opinion on Quinn Ewers. I think that the Colts showing interest in him is very interesting because it's like he's going to be a day 2 pick. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so the fact that you have Daniel Jones and you have Richardson competing for the starting position in a league where a lot of teams aren't rostering a 3rd quarterback, this is a little bit compelling because it's one thing if you meet once or you have a visit with him. When you use one of those top 30 visits on a quarterback, I think that, it's not always telling, but it's interesting because they've already got that position seemingly handled.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers, I think, represents sort of the start of the investment that the Colts would be willing to make at a quarterback. 3rd round is still tough to stomach when you know that Quinn Ewers is going to be quarterback 3 all season. I don't think there's any way he's surpassing Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones to get any significant playing time. So it would be kind of rough to see Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen on what could be a make or break year or essentially burn a 3rd round pick on a guy that's not going to see the field this year. I think that makes it a little hard to stomach. I mean, if he sneaks down into day 3, you can get him at round 4, like at the top of round 4. I think that might be an option the Colts could consider. But yeah, like everybody above him, maybe on the consensus boards, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shook, Jackson Dart, those are names that are going to be just a little bit too much of an investment for the Colts, I think, to be able to justify with the situation that they're in. I mean, it's really hard to get excited about anybody, Quinn Ewers and beyond, especially knowing that what the current state of the Colts quarterback room is, and the best that you're hoping for with one of these guys is that they show some promise in practices and come out in 2026 and be a contender for a starting job. I don't think you can expect anything more than that. Like, you're not going to get an unquestioned starter or really anybody that you want to see taking any starting reps. So, I mean, I'm not going to be excited about any of these names that we're throwing out at quarterback. Quinn Ewers might represent the top of that list. I don't even know if that's true. I just find myself hard to be excited about it.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's criticism, but this is a great comment from Chet Men. All right, so Quinn Ewers had Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah.
At Texas.
Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, both highly rated this year.
He had Ewers had a lot of weapons to throw the football to, and when you look at Adonai Mitchell's 2023 with the team, great year. You look at Xavier Worthy's here. I'm looking at his stats. I mean, he had 62 catches in 21, 60 catches in 22, 75 in 2023, 12 touchdowns, 9 and 5. I mean, good Lord. So Ewers did have so many weapons to throw to. So you got to question what can he do with a little bit, maybe less. But the Colts do have a good receiving corps, so we'll have to see. And of course, he does have that rapport with Adonai Mitchell. But some of the strengths of Quinn Ewers: shows exceptional touch and timing on intermediate throws when working from a clean pocket. Consistently hits receivers in stride between the numbers. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks can operate from a clean pocket. Creates throwing lanes with diverse arm angles, so he's able to throw from the side. He's able to throw over the top, kind of like, standard. He shows craftiness working around pressure when maintaining composure. He's got a quick twitch release, but then you look at some of these weaknesses. He lacks consistency and touch in the short passing game. Simple screens and dump offs become adventures too often, which that's a concern because there are times where defensive backs, they're going to read what you're doing. And if he throws that a little too slow, too wobbly, that's a pick six. So we'll have to see what kind of quarterback Quinn Ewers is going to be. He's very, very polarizing. So Paul Wilson, we're going to get to this super chat right now. Drake and Noah, which player do you each want deep down at 14? Not the media, just who do you really want to be a Colt? I'll let you start with this one, Noah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jahad Campbell on that. I know that there's a lot of other names that you throw around. I think I just want a fun defensive player. I'm not sure if this is the move. Who knows what that labrum injury is like and how that's going to affect year one. I don't know if he's going to be the guy that moves the needle the most for you in a make or break season for this regime. But yeah, I'd love to watch Jahad Campbell and see Lou Anarumo use him a little bit with the versatility that he has to be able to rush off the edge. Even if you don't feel comfortable with him being like an off-ball linebacker full-time and be able to hold down that starting job. If you feel like there's any instances where you don't want him on the field in certain passing situations to be down in coverage, you can always drop him up on the line of scrimmage, get him in these pass rush situations, have him and Latu go off the same edge doing a stunt. I would like the creative pressures that you could put in there with Jahad Campbell.
I like that. I'm gonna go with this is actually tough, but I want to say Colston Loveland because I don't think Warren's going to be there, but I really think Tyler Warren that'd just be a home run hit. Yeah. You need a tight end one. You need a guy who can do it all, and he's underrated in open space. He's underrated with his yards after catch. The guy's just a lot to handle, and I think that Jahad Campbell's also a great pick, but for me it'd be Tyler Warren. So thank you so much, Paul. We really appreciate it. We are going to go ahead and get to Noah's here. Noah. This one is a quarterback who ran the football 9 times on the first drive of the national championship game. And he's struggled with some throws, kind of struggled with some throws at the pro day, but this is the one and only Riley Leonard. So tell us a little bit more about why you picked Riley Leonard here. He's definitely going to be more of your day 3 pick.
Yeah. And maybe that's why I picked him is I like that a little better. I can stomach that a little bit better, taking a guy in the 5th or 6th.
Sure.
As your quarterback 3 rather than making that investment in Quinn Ewers like we mentioned. I'm not going to be excited about any of these names, but if you're going to grab a guy that's going to be your quarterback 3 and essentially your de facto Sam Ehlinger replacement, I think Riley Leonard's a really good fit for that. By all accounts, a really good locker room guy, humble with good work ethic. I think you can do similar things that you can do with Anthony Richardson in the sense that you don't have to change the playbook all that much in the way that you employ the quarterback runs in the offense. So I think that would be valuable. I think he'd be valuable as a scout team quarterback in that sense too, to be able to mimic what some more mobile quarterbacks in the league would do. I just think there's value there as a quarterback 3, and I don't even know if you see him as a long-term quarterback 2. That's maybe his potential upside, but that's as much as you're going to get with Riley Leonard. But obviously the Colts have shown some interest. Shane Steichen at the Notre Dame Pro Day, pulling him aside and talking to him at length.
Sure.
They're doing their due diligence on these day 3 quarterbacks, and while it's hard to stomach using a pick on a guy that you don't want to see the field at all, like I mentioned at the top, when you don't have quarterback all figured out, you don't have your for sure number 1 guy that's going to go into the future being your quarterback, your franchise guy, then you just keep taking shots and kind of hope you hit.
Yeah, and Riley Leonard's stats are very interesting. So he was 66.7% throwing the football. That's a career high. Of course, he was a Duke. He was at Duke the first 3 seasons and actually had a very respectable 2022. But the thing that really stands out about him is he honestly, as far as a runner, who he really reminds me of is Daniel Jones.
Mhm.
He really does. He's a bigger dude.
Tripping at the
He's
5 yard
gonna
line.
Yeah, tripping at the 5 yard line. Uh, so he's a bigger dude. He can run the football. 184 attempts in 2024 for 906 yards and 17 touchdowns. He had 21 passing touchdowns, 38 total. So this is a guy that kind of like Yim said there. If we're talking about a day 3 pick or 7th round, I think that's great. I think that would be awesome because he's going to provide even more competition, even though you're not really too worried about him doing much, just kind of like Sam Ellinger. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But Lindsey Mack, we're going to go ahead and get to your comment here. Hey, first time catching you live in a while. Don't know what I missed, but give me Warren all day. Hey, Lindsey, that's exactly what a lot of people want. And I think that when we do this live show, if that happens, there's going to be a lot of freaking happy live viewers that are going to rejoice if they get Tyler Warren. So we will go ahead and get to the next position here. Of course, it's running back. Now, this one is a little different now because initially we were like, well, they got to have this guy, got to have this guy, got to have this guy because you got to compliment Jonathan Taylor. Well, now it's Khalil Herbert. He's the guy who's in the shoes, but you can't trust Tyler Goodson. Okay, so I think that they're going to need something else. We'll go ahead and start with Noah's this time. This is a Georgia dude. He's got a brother in the NFL as well. So we're just going to go ahead and hop into it. This is Georgia's Trevor Etienne. Had an opportunity to talk to him a little bit at the Combine during his press conference. What are your thoughts on Trevor Etienne? What do you think he could possibly bring to this offense? Because Khalil Herbert, while he has a lot of skill and he does look really good next to Jonathan Taylor on the depth chart, if you get the right draft running back, there could be a competition there for RB2.
Yeah. I think this kind of depends. Just running back in general kind of depends what you want. You mentioned kind of those 3 big guys, and then Salvin Ahmed's gonna come in and be a competition body in camp. But yeah, you've got Tyler Goodson there as running back 3, Khalil Herbert as running back 2. I think really the range that we're picking these guys, I think both of our guys are scheduled to kind of go in those the same kind of range. I think that's going to be your competition for RB2, like you mentioned with Khalil Herbert. One reason I lean Trevor Etienne, I think there's a couple ways you could go on this. So I think he's gonna be a complimentary guy without really that potential to be your workhorse. I think the one area that I wouldn't be super excited about taking Trevor Etienne is if you're in any situation where Jonathan Taylor goes down for an extended amount of time. I don't love the backfield of Etienne and Herbert, but I do love the backfield of Etienne and Jonathan Taylor together. So if you've got your healthy guys together, I think he's a really good complement for what Jonathan Taylor brings. Jonathan Taylor's a guy that the Colts have brought off the field on 3rd down in the past just because you can't trust the hands, you can't trust the pass protection. Trevor Etienne, I think, caught 63 of his 64 targets throughout his 3 years at Georgia. So not a ton of volume as a pass catcher, but very sure hands, and was really kind of used in vanilla ways as a receiving running back. But I think that's kind of similar to how the Colts have employed their pass catching running backs or their running backs in the passing game. It's been pretty simply like flat routes, screens, just short stuff, some wheels here and there, but nothing that's super dynamic from the running back position. So I mean that's kind of what Trevor Etienne's done in his past at Georgia. I think he's a really balanced back. He didn't get asked to pass block a lot, but I think he showed some capability there when he did. And then just kind of a guy who sets up his moves on the second level. I like his shiftiness in the hole. He's got 4.41 speed. It's not like super breakaway speed like Jonathan Taylor's got when he hits the hole and he's gone. There's still a little bit more of a question when you got Etienne going through an open hole like that, but I think 4.41, he's got the speed to get away. He's not going to hit that second gear, but he's going to be able to take a big hole for a big gain. But I think he's just an overall a balanced guy, right? He's always been a complimentary back. I don't think he's led a team in rushing yards since he entered college. I think his couple years at Florida, and then 1 year at Georgia. So he's never been like the lead guy on a team, but I think he he has some untapped potential. He's still going to be 20 years old when he gets drafted. So he's super young, not a lot of tread on the tires because he's never been a workhorse back. So I think, yeah, this is somebody who has some room to grow and kind of find what he does best in the NFL.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about Trevor Etienne. Etienne not really ever being that lead guy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, 719 yards rushing, 753, 609. Of course, he only played 10 games last year. But the guy has caught passes. I mean, he's not this otherworldly guy, but out of 10 games, he caught 32 passes for Georgia. So, I mean, you add another 3 games, he's got over 40 catches. So this is a guy that he's honestly more of a pass catching back than Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert, guys, he might be smaller. He's not a pass catching back. Colts still need something like that. You either need to go pass catching prowess or power in this draft, because if Taylor does go down, you want to have somebody that can actually make something happen and can be more of a 3-down back. I do have to highlight this comment. Both of these guys, Wyatt, legend, joining the show. By Shul Tootin from Virginia Tech, 4.35 speed, nice early day 3 option. And of course, Chet says the same thing. He does need to work on securing the ball, though. He coughs that thing up like it's covered in oil. He really needs to fix that. But By Shul Tootin is a very interesting name to watch. Keep that name on your radar. That's somebody the Colts might select. For me, I wanted to go a little bit more power. I wanted to go a little bit more straight up, a guy who's just going to run into people, a guy that Trey Sermon, honestly, he could be a Trey Sermon replacement, and that's Damian Martinez from Miami. So this is a guy that is as physical as they come. He's not going to give you really anything with pass catching, but what he is going to give you is hard physical running. So he had 982 yards, 1,185 yards, both at Oregon State, goes to Miami, over 1,000 yards again. He averaged every season over 6 yards a carry. He only caught 32 passes over 3 seasons. But what this guy is going to do is he is just going to be a physical runner. And if you need those short yards, you can turn to him. He's a hard guy to bring down. I love this pick. I also really respect the Trevor Etienne pick because we got 2 different guys here that really address a need in the backfield. So what are your thoughts on Damian Martinez? I mean, this is a guy who also, keep in mind, never dipped below 7 rushing touchdowns, never went above 10. So you've got 7, 9, and 10, just very consistent, very physical, and just very scary to try to tackle.
Yeah, I love the names in this running back class. Some of the names, so many options right around this range of where Etienne and Martinez are expected to go. This is kind of it's kind of a little bit of pick your flavor. Where how I mentioned I like the backfield of Jonathan Taylor and Trevor Etienne and how they complement each other. But if Jonathan Taylor were to go down, I don't think Etienne's a lead guy. If Jonathan Taylor were to go down, I very much think that Martinez could step in and be that lead guy in conjunction with Khalil Herbert, and you still wouldn't miss that much of a beat. You wouldn't have those explosives. Obviously, I think he doesn't have that top end speed like Jonathan Taylor has to be able to take it. But I think early downs, I think you're very happy having Martinez take those carries and kind of eat up a little bit of that workload. I think he's one of those guys that you could bring that's going to prolong the prime of Jonathan Taylor a little bit longer because you can feed him on those early downs. You can feed him on 3rd and short. You can feed him in these situations where you need somebody to just slam their body into the defensive line and you save a little bit of the tread that Jonathan Taylor's got left. So yeah, I mean, these are 2, I think, very talented running backs that are going to go in a similar range, but are completely different, kind of change how you view the depth chart and kind of what their role would be on the Colts offense.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, you want to have variety in the backfield. And right now, you do have Jonathan Taylor. He's not a pass catcher. He's not a pass blocker. Then you do have Khalil Herbert, who is really a one-cut, shifty type of runner, but he's not really much else either. So you need either a big physical dude or you need a guy who's a pass catcher. And I think both of these are very good. What's up, Don? Good to see you here. So the next position is an interesting one. We're going to go wide receiver. Now, this isn't really much of a need for the Colts. If you think about who they have, you got Pittman, Downs, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, and then you do have Anthony Gould, which a lot of people forget about. They really need to figure out a way to get him more touches because you talk about shifty. That's the definition of it. So we'll go ahead and start with mine here. I really like Texas Christian's Jack Beck. And the reason I like Jack Beck is because in college, last season, I mean, he really didn't do too much at LSU, but last year he broke out 62 catches, 1,034 yards, almost 17 yards per reception, 9 touchdowns through the air. Looked great at times, and he's also more of your multi-role receiver. He can play outside, he can play slot. You can even use him in gadget plays, which they did. So not really, he didn't really make too much of an impact with his 3 rushing attempts. He had negative 3 yards, but the key is that they tried to use him more. What are your thoughts on Jack Beck? I think that this is a potential sleeper pick. If they are able to get him, I mean, you could use him in many ways. I think that he could be very, very useful as a big slot receiver, might be able to exploit some mismatches.
Yeah, I think you could use him in the slot. I also think specifically in the Colts offense, I think he would fit really well behind Michael Pittman in that role outside, kind of being your possession guy. He was a good deep threat in college in the same way that Michael Pittman was a good deep threat in college, where he's really good at the catch point, and is just kind of able to create some separation with physicality when he's running those vertical routes. So I mean, super consistent kind of guy. Again, like you mentioned there at the top with wide receiver, I'm not sure this is a need, and the resources that they would have to spend to get Jack Beck, probably a third or fourth, could probably be put to better use elsewhere. But yeah, I think he'd be a good addition to the room to kind of round it out. It is a little bit crowded in there. I think you'd be moving on from a guy like Anthony Gould or even Ashton Doolin, because the room would just be too crowded to keep 7 wide receivers if you end up drafting a guy like that. But yeah, I think his skill set would fit really well with the Colts offense.
Yeah, so some of the strengths: elite catch focus and concentration in traffic. He runs with controlled anger after the catch, breaking the first contact and showing outstanding contact balance when working through traffic. And I love how somebody mentioned he's got some of the best hands in the draft. Physical hands, fighter in press coverage, employs quick, decisive counters to defeat jam attempts and maintain clean release paths. Like Noah was mentioning, that's the deep threat ability. So when he gets that press off, he's gone and he's got to step on people. But the thing is, he does lack the long speed to separate vertically. He's got average explosiveness. He's got a single season of high-end production, and it raises questions. So that's really last year. But this is a guy that can step in, and he really can help you. He can contribute. He can make some things happen. We'll have to see. It's really all about what the Colts think about, I would say, do they believe, because Ashton Doolin is who he is, but do they think that he might be able to be more than 2 catches in a season? And then, of course, it's all about Anthony Gould and Adonai Mitchell, the last one more than anything. And I think that the Colts know that they put a second-round pick on A.D. Mitchell, so he's got to step up. And really, if he can just haul the ball in, he was open quite often last year. So I would dare say that wide receivers probably not on the Colts radar, but we'll have to see. And then, of course, we're going to get to Noah's here. Now, this one is a name that hasn't really been floated around too much for the Colts. But I do love this one, and it's Torrey Horton from Colorado State. So, Noah, I want you to kind of break down why you decided to select Torrey Horton. This is a really good pick. And I want you to kind of break down why, but tell us a little bit more about Horton here from CSU.
Yeah, so I kind of viewed Torrey Horton, and fans are not going to like this, but as a little bit of A.D. Mitchell insurance, where he can fill a similar type role for you. Maybe you want to move A.D. Mitchell around. Maybe you want to try to play him a little bit more in that Michael Pittman role, and let Alec Pierce do his thing. And I think Torrey Horton could be a good deep threat. I think he's really good run after the catch ability that A.D. Mitchell hasn't really shown.
Yes.
Just a really good ability to start and stop. And unlike A.D. Mitchell in his rookie season, Torrey Horton has super reliable hands, really wide catch radius, and good at tracking the ball. He's not going to be super physical. He's got a really slender frame. I think he's 6'3" and just under 200. So a little bit wiry, but 2-year team captain at Colorado State, high character guy. Chris Ballard loves these team captains, loves plucking those out of the draft. So I think that'd be a good fit character-wise in terms of what they've looked for in the past. And yeah, I think immediately could have an impact as a deep threat. I think if you're making this investment at receiver, you are probably moving on from a guy like Anthony Gould. And Torrey Horton can come in and be that vertical threat that you could have gotten out of Anthony Gould. Has a little bit of zip as a passer also, a little bit stronger arm. So if you're picturing him in those trick plays, that trick play that A.D. Mitchell threw back to Anthony Richardson and got a pick six on, maybe that's a guy like Torrey Horton to be used in some kinds of those plays. It could be a little bit valuable, and then also value as a punt returner. If you bring him onto the roster and you're moving on from Anthony Gould, then you've immediately got somebody who can step back there at punt return and provide some juice. I think he had 3 punt return touchdowns with Colorado State, all over 70 yards. So yeah, he can take it to the house on special teams as well.
Yeah, and the thing that's really interesting is he did get hurt last year with a knee injury, but man, he still averaged 13.6 yards per catch. And when you look at his statistics, he started out at the U of N at Nevada, and he was a producer there. I mean, he had 52 catches in 2021, but then, of course, he broke out with 71 in 2022, 96 catches in 12 games, which, by the way, people, that's 8 catches a game. That's pretty freaking outstanding, given some of the teams that Colorado State plays. I know that they're in the MWC, but I mean, he had 27 total career touchdowns. He had over 3,600 yards receiving, and like Noah said, I mean, you're talking about a guy that had 11. He had 11 punt returns. 11 punt returns and then 4 punt returns. 4 punt returns in 2024. He still found a way to take one of those back. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like Noah said, if you get Horton, it's going to pretty much spell either super competition for Anthony Gould or you're moving on from him. And just real quick, because I love his strengths, exceptional ball tracking ability downfield. It allows him to make adjustments on the fly without losing stride or separation from backs. Natural hands catcher who flashes mitts late in routes. Consistently catching separation. Creating separation with deceptive gearing and vertical push against press coverage. And then I love this one. He displays impressive spatial awareness along the sidelines, consistently maintaining awareness of boundary limits while controlling contorting for difficult catches. So this is a guy that is just all about consistency with receiving the football. But then, of course, this one's pretty big. Inconsistent hand fighting technique against press coverage that could severely limit his effectiveness against NFL caliber boundary corners, and then his blocking effort and technique remain below average despite adequate frame, often appearing disinterested when plays aren't designed for him. Now that right there sounds a lot like one Adonai Mitchell. Honestly, you're hoping that that's not going to be the case if they do take Horton, and you're hoping as hell that that's not the case for A.D. Mitchell, because there were times where he looked like he was allergic to a block. But I love this pick. I think that this is a really good one because of everything, all the boxes check off. Yards after catch, deep threat ability. He's a special teams returner. He can really do a lot for the Colts if they were to take him. So we'll go ahead and get to tight end here, but before we do, we got to get to Paul Wilson's super chat. Thank you so much yet again, Paul. You've always been a great supporter and thrown down super chats, so thank you so much. Because Ballard is so good at drafting good O-line players, should we expect that in the later rounds? We're actually going to get to offensive line, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does take a flyer late, especially, I mean, you know how they are. Like, they like to trade back at some point. I don't know if that's going to be the first round. I don't even know if guys are off the board at 14 and the guys that were at the top of the list aren't necessarily available. Maybe they still take best player available, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get a couple of offensive linemen. You know how they feel, Paul, about their depth. I mean, you got guard, you need depth. You probably need depth at tackle because you're looking at that situation. You move Gonsalves inside. I mean, Blake Freeland, that's your swing tackle, and he is buns, baby. That dude, all due respect, I know he got thrown into the fire in his rookie year against guys like Trey Hendrickson, but I mean, Trey Hendrickson made him look like a joke. And I know he does that to a lot of tackles, but I mean, Blake Freeland was a curtain. It's going right through him. So we'll have to see. But I think offensive line depth is a priority in this draft. And then, yeah. So then there's I expect Ballard to at least take one offensive lineman in the first 3 picks. We'll have to see about that. But this next position, this is a huge one. And actually, people, neither me or Noah have the big guy. That's the best part of this whole thing. But Noah, we're going to go ahead and start with yours. This is potentially my favorite non-Tyler Warren pick.
Yeah.
And I want you to discuss and talk a little bit further about why this is such a great pick. But it's LSU's Mason Taylor. So this is a guy that showed a lot of promise, especially at the combine with his gauntlet drill. right down the line, didn't swerve. He's got great hands. He can at least block adequately for you, but it's really just his feel. He feels like a grinded out lunch pail type of tight end. Might not be this otherworldly prospect, but he's a guy I think is going to get it done in the NFL. Go ahead and elaborate a little more on
Yeah.
the son of the one and only Jason Taylor.
Yeah, I think you and I actually have a little bit of different feelings on Jason or on Mason Taylor here. I don't love this pick, but I put him in here as a fit for the Colts because the Colts just straight up need to come away with a starting tight end. And once you get past these top three, I don't know if you feel comfortable starting Elijah Arroyo or Harold Fannin
Mm.
without adding some more juice to that room. I think Mason Taylor kind of represents the last tight end that you can get and feel happy with him being your unquestioned starter going into the season. I wasn't going to include Tyler Warren. I'm not sure how likely that is. And I'm not, if you have to trade up to get Tyler Warren, I would prefer to not get Tyler Warren. I think first round tight ends, like it's hard to hit on this. If Mason Taylor's there in the second round, I'm not going to be super excited about it because I don't think he's going to be a super dynamic guy. He's going to be reliable. He's going to catch passes. I don't know. He's going to be super efficient as a blocker, but I think he's good enough to keep on the field and not sub out and throw in a guy like Mo Alley Cox to take up those snaps. So yeah, I think he can be an every down guy for you at tight end. But he just represents what the bare minimum is that you need to come away with at tight end based on the current state of the Colts roster.
Yeah, and the thing that stands out about him is it's really just the inline ability. You can probably still move him outside, but he's going to play mostly inline, and he's been consistent. 38 catches in 22, 36 catches in 23, and then 55 last year. Now, the one thing that is kind of disappointing is his red zone ability. He
Mhm.
didn't really do much in that regard. Only had one touchdown catch in 2023 and then two last year. So not a big red zone guy, but I do like what DSG Goodbar said here. Taylor fan here, NFL pedigree, tough and plays hard every snap. Definitely a Colts mentality out of tight ends a la Doyle. That's the last really reliable tight end the Colts had was Jack Doyle. And then, of course, he joined Eric Ebron in that magical year where the tight ends were just on fire for the Colts. So that's something that they want to get back. They want to get back just a guy that, if it's not Warren or it's not one of the top guys, you at least want somebody who you can put on the field. You can rely on them to at least catch at the most 3 or 4 passes a game, and that they're also going to be able to provide some blocking for you. And right now, the Colts, they've got on the roster, you've got Drew Ogletree, who can't really develop as a pass catcher. He's strictly a blocker. And then you have Will Mallory, who you want to say is a receiving tight end. You want to say he's a slot tight end. Who knows what the hell he even is? I mean, the guy had 4 catches last year. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a scratch. And then Jelani Woods is maybe the biggest question mark on the entire team outside of Juju Brents and Anthony Richardson. So we'll have to see. I like Mason Taylor. Some of the comps here: Cade Stover, Luke Schoonmaker, and Jared Wiley. But of course, natural hands catcher. He plucks the ball away with his frame. He's got great spatial awareness. He's got an advanced route stem technique that helps create separation, and he shows veteran savvy working against zone coverage. He's able to find the voids. But
Mhm.
something that sticks out about him that was really interesting to me is he needs significant technical refinement as a run blocker. Plays too high and gets overwhelmed at the point of attack. Not good, because the Colts are going to run the crap out of the ball. They're going to need to. And then he doesn't show the explosive burst needed to consistently separate from athletic NFL safeties in man coverage. But the good news is he's able to at least separate to a degree, and you saw that in college. You saw that through the NFL Combine. We'll have to see. But that's a good one. I think that Mason Taylor is a nice pick. So mine is definitely one of the top guys. Mine is a dude that I'm not going to lie to you, people. I mean, I know everyone's wetting their pants over a potential Tyler Warren pick, and I get it. You've got a guy who had over 100 catches last year, and he's able to do all these great things. And heck, he even ran the ball, for over 200 yards. But this is a guy that I have seen plenty of tape on. The more tape I see on him, the more I like him for a fit with the Colts, and that's Colston Loveland. This would be, in my opinion, I almost said Colston Loveland at 14. I was this close. And the reason that I like Colston Loveland so much is first off, he's massive. Guy's like 6'5", 6'6". He's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he's a little bit lankier, and the guy is a seam stretcher. He's able to still block. People call him a move tight end. Absolutely not. Look at the tape. The guy can block. I know that his PFF grade isn't the greatest, but that's where PFF can be a little bit hazy. Always watch the tape. Go based off of what you see the guy doing. That's going to matter more than a grade. But yeah, so then, I mean, you got Lindsey Mack here saying, wouldn't mind double dipping. That's very fair. If they got Colston Loveland, there's a lot of other tight ends later in the draft that you might be able to double dip and snag. But something that really stands out about Colston Loveland is he's got 45 catches in 2023. Michigan wins the national championship, of course. And then he has 56 catches last year. Doesn't sound like a very sexy amount. But then when you put into account that he had an injury and he only played 10 games, I mean, that's 5.5 catches a game on an offense, by the way, that didn't have hardly anything to anyone to throw to. So he was really the only target. 5 touchdowns, of course. He didn't really do anything else in the ground attack, but something that stands out about him are some of his strengths. He's an exceptional athlete for the position who plays like an oversized receiver. That is great because the Colts had nothing as far as receiving prowess in the tight end room. He's a dangerous seam threat with build-up speed to stretch defenses vertically. Nothing better for a quarterback that struggles like Anthony Richardson than right down the middle of the field and you just frozen rope that thing. And he burned Washington for a 45-yard touchdown showing his field stretching ability. Look, man, I don't care if it's college football. If you have a tight end that runs over a 40-yard touchdown catch, that's something to behold because that means that he's outrunning even the secondary. They can't catch him in a foot race. And he wasn't even, it's not like he was open by 15, 20 yards. So that's impressive. And he's a versatile chess piece who can align anywhere. So he might not be Tyler Warren. You can still move this guy outside. You can move him inside. You can move him into the slot. And he took snaps in line in the slot and out while producing from all alignments. Now, here's the downside. He's still filling out his frame. He's not that big. He's big, but he's not that big. And he needs to add functional strength. He gets pushed around too easily, and he's going to have the occasional focus drops when trying to run before securing the catch because he knows how fast he is. Had 3 crucial drops against Penn State in 2024, and then he's raw as a pass protector. So, in short, Colston Loveland in some ways is a project tight end, but in other ways he's already established. And here's what you need more than anything for the Colts is a pass-catching tight end. Okay, there was a time when I wasn't even that opposed to Harold Fannin. I know that he's not really anything but a big slot by some standards, but I like Colston Loveland. Noah, what are your thoughts on the Michigan product? I think that he really could blossom in a Shane Steichen offense.
Yeah, I really like this pick. I would have picked him if you weren't going to do it, even over Tyler Warren. I mean, honestly, if both tight ends are there at 14, I might take Colston Loveland instead of Warren. I like him that much. I think he's more dynamic of an athlete than Tyler Warren is. Tyler Warren, a ton of his production at Penn State came from the cute stuff, gimmicky stuff, where they're doing some end arounds and some tight end screens and things like that. He got a lot of his volume that way. Colston Loveland, they obviously wanted to get him the ball, but they got him the ball in a little bit more of a traditional passing offense, and he was able to produce that way. I think Tyler Warren coming onto your team is a guy that you would probably have to manufacture touches for. I think that's kind of similar to how Brock Bowers was coming out. When he was coming in, you knew if you were drafting Brock Bowers, you were drafting Brock Bowers with a plan to get him the ball early and often, and kind of scheme your passing offense around ways to do that. Except I don't think Tyler Warren's as dynamic as Brock Bowers was. So you'd be scheming up for a guy who I think has a little bit less juice than what Brock Bowers can offer you. I think Colston Loveland you can immediately plug in there at your Y tight end. I think he's just as good of a blocker as Tyler Warren, if not better. I think Tyler Warren's got that kind of air about him or that mentality because he wears number 44 and he has a mullet. Everyone thinks he's a really good blocker. I think he's super physical and he's willing to do it all the time. But I mean, his arms are shorter than Colston Loveland. His arms are shorter than most of the tight ends in this class. I think he can't really lock out as well and get that separation from defenders like you would kind of ideally want when you're drafting a tight end to be your Y tight end at number 14. So I'd be super excited to have Colston Loveland. Chris Ballard, and at the end of his season press conference, said they wanted a guy that can control the middle of the field, and that's Loveland up the seam. I think he's a guy that's going to pull defenders from the outside in. being that seam threat. And I think that's a pass that Anthony Richardson can hit all day.
Yeah, and look, again, you do want a complete tight end, okay? But you, before anything else, you need a tight end who can get out there and catch the football. And this is the definition of it. And he's going to potentially be a better fit, potentially, I dare say, than Tyler Warren. Like me and Noah, you're gonna, before we move on here, you're gonna see on this show all the way up to the draft. We really like Tyler Warren. Okay. Obviously, you'd be crazy not to like Tyler Warren. But me and Noah also understand that there are other tight ends out there, and this is a deeper class than it looks like. Obviously, the first three, Warren, Loveland, and Taylor, that's kind of where you want to hit. But everyone's talking about Warren like he's, the second coming of the position. And it might be about fit. Like he said, like Noah said, I love that he mentioned the manufacturer touches for him because he's so diverse. You're going to try to almost utilize the offense in a different way so that it factors Warren in. Don't forget, you still have Michael Pittman, Downs, Pierce. You still have other pass catchers. You have Jonathan Taylor, potentially another running back, Khalil Herbert. Richardson's going to run the football plenty. So we'll have to see, but I'm glad that we both kind of agree there. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Loveland might drop a little bit. Chet says here because he did require surgery, and then of course Paul Wilson says that I sold him on Colston Loveland. Good, good. I'm glad that I was able to do that. So the last area here, we're only going to pick one position for the whole group. That's the offensive line. Now, this one is interesting. This was probably the hardest for me because so many guys can really, really, really help the depth. But I dare say I think the Colts should go day two with this. I think that they need to pick somebody who can make things happen and who's just an absolute hog, just a mauler on the inside. And I would like them to go guard, and I would like them to go Tate Ratledge. So Tate Ratledge per PFF, he played 500 blocking snaps, 311 were pass, 189 were run. But here's the thing. He's nothing but just absolutely solid across the board. So he only allowed 7 pressures. He only allowed 4 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, and 1 sack off of 500 total snaps and 311 pass blocking snaps. So that's just 1 sack and over 300 snaps. All right. So he's got that ability. And also some of the other things that stand out about him, he's got devastating power at the point of attack with heavy hands that jar defenders on the initial contact. So he comes off and it's this boom. He just absolutely lifts defenders, and he's going to give you a pop. He shows impressive recovery ability initially when beaten. He rarely gives up on plays, and he fights constantly to reestablish position, which is awesome. And then he demonstrates excellent awareness of stunts and twists, communicating effectively with teammates to handle defensive line games. I love that. I love the fact he's able to communicate because Tanner Bordellini is going to be a younger center. What happens if Tate Ratledge has to step in? I think you've got yourself a pretty decent depth guard there. But of course, he has occasionally he gets too aggressive because, again, he's got an absolutely monster type of mentality. So he gets too aggressive against quicker interior rushers, which what happens is if you push too hard against the quicker guys, they're just going to move you. They're going to go underneath you. They're going to be faster than what you can handle. And he does have an injury history. So what are your thoughts on Tate Ratledge? I understand people, the Freebird song was playing while he was running his 40-yard dash. That's fantastic. If you put him next to Tanner Bordellini, you have double mullets. Mm-hmm. That's great and all, but we're talking about performance here. What are your thoughts on the Georgia product? Do you think that he could have an impact on the Colts offensive line?
Yeah, it does seem like Colts fans like players with mullets.
They really do.
Tyler Warren, Tate Ratledge, Tanner Bordellini. Just get all 3 of them on the tee.
It's Midwest, baby.
Yeah, I think Tate Ratledge is an ideal Colts fit, just for the athleticism that they seem to prefer at those guard spots. I think he has that. He's one of the elite athletes at the position on the interior. I think he's a guy you're picking at the end of day 2, maybe in round 3, and you can slot him into that starting right guard spot and feel pretty comfortable about that. And then I think you feel really comfortable having Tate Ratledge there at guard and moving Gonsalves back out there to swing tackle or just competing for that starting guard spot. with Ratledge. So yeah, I think it would immediately make your sixth best offensive lineman, whether that ends up being Gonsalves or Ratledge, instantly better, which is super valuable because, as you know, not all five of those offensive linemen are going to play every snap. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. So you're gonna see your six offensive linemen get some time, and probably some extended time if you've got a versatile guy on the back. Yeah, I think would be a great fit in terms of just what they've looked for in the past, and that investment that you would be making in that third round is kind of right around the sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah, and look, they need other, they're going to need other positions
Yeah.
on the offensive line outside of just guard. But yeah, this is a really good one here. Nice thing about Ratledge is he steps up in big situations. He had his best grades against Clemson and Texas, two of the best teams he faced this year. So that's fantastic. That's good to know. He's definitely going to be able to not get overwhelmed by any type of pass rusher. Now, the question is the two biggest things, because one of them is always the biggest question with everybody, is how healthy can you stay? He's shown some issues with that. And then, of course, he can't get too aggressive, because I'm telling you, there are defensive tackles and defensive ends that, or just defensive linemen in general, that thrive when there's an overly aggressive offensive lineman. They don't have to do as much, and they definitely can use speed to get around. And then, you got Chet here kind of talking about tackle, and that's a beautiful comment, because we're going to go ahead and get right here into Noah's pick, Donovan Jackson from OSU.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give us a little bit of a breakdown on what you see with Donovan Jackson. A lot of people are talking guard, 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 guard. Tackle is huge. You need somebody who can protect the outside, and Braden Smith has struggled mightily with injuries, has missed a lot of games. What are your thoughts here on Donovan?
Yeah, so Donovan Jackson, a lot of people actually have him as their guard number one, which is primarily what he played at Ohio State. But a lot of people liked that versatility that he showed when Josh Simmons went down this year. Donovan Jackson bumped out there to left tackle, like I see Chet mentioning in the comments down here. But yeah, against Abdul Carter and Penn State, and kind of watching him hold his own. He's not really that typical guy that you would think you'd like to see at tackle. He's 6'4", so he's a little bit shorter, kind of a slow mover. But kind of performed pretty admirably in terms of the situation that he was put in, being thrust out there to play tackle when he's been stuck inside at guard. He's played left guard for most of his career. I think you'd be drafting him, and this would be a first round pick. You'd have to invest in him unless he falls really early in the second. Maybe that'd be a move you'd be trading up for a guy in the second to get, because he's probably not making it to the Colts second round selection. But the big thing about this is versatility. I think we mentioned like kind of what they'd be looking for, that they've got Gonsalves already on the roster, a guy who's played tackle and can bump inside to guard if they need him to. I think this is really good to have a guy who you want to play at guard, but can also bump in out to tackle in a pinch. Maybe not the elite of the elite athletes like Tate Ratledge is, that RAS score of 9 point whatever that Tate Ratledge had. I think Donovan Jackson's like in the high 8s, so still a really good athlete, but maybe not up to that elite standard that they've had in the past. But yeah, I think this kind of represents a really high investment on the offensive line to really seal away any doubts that you have. I think you immediately plug him in as a starter at right guard. And then you kind of have Matt Gonsalves return to that swing tackle position, so you're not so worried about having being one snap away from Blake Freeland taking significant snaps. I think that puts you in a much healthier situation on the offensive line. In a do or die year, like we've said pretty much every episode for Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever it be, it's a do or die year. You want to keep them upright. So spending a first round pick on an offensive lineman might seem rich, but I think it's kind of the backbone of what Chris Ballard has believed all along, is going heavy in the trenches and taking this guy with that you can be sure is going to start at right guard and in a pinch can play for you at tackle as well. I think that'd be a good investment.
Yeah, and just because I want to do a promo here, Patrick mentioned Wyatt Milam, move him to the inside, the Colts draft guide player comp, Will Fries. Go buy the Indianapolis Colts draft guide. Guys like Andrew Moore, guys like Zach Hicks, and others, they put a lot of work into that, and it is just a chef's kiss of breakdowns for all these prospects, and it talks about how they fit with the Colts as well. So, but yeah, that's all of them. We do have to save a little bit of time here. We don't usually get to these latest news and rumors. So the first one we're going to talk about is about Braden Smith. So we'll make this brief, but this is very, very like not funny. We're trying to be very, sensitive here. He missed the last 5 games of last season because of a personal issue. And everyone was like, even I was like, what the heck is this guy's problem? Why can't he play? It turns out he had a monumental battle with OCD to the point where he was on the verge of some really dark things happening. And he has since then been able to come out of that. He's ready to play football again. We all struggle with stuff, in life, and there's nothing worse than a mental struggle. And so just because he's making millions of dollars doesn't mean he's not still a human being. But talk a little bit about Braden Smith's strength, because I'm telling you right now, to be able to come out of it, go read Joel Erickson's piece breaking this down. It is not just jarring what he went through, but it's also uplifting the lengths and bounds that he's gone to return to the right tackle that made him Braden Smith.
Yeah. So first off, go read that story. This is
so good.
We've got 5 minutes at the end of the show, and I don't know enough about the story to be able to do any bit of justice to the struggle that was going on, or any of the treatment that he received, or really any of these details beyond it. The best that we can do is applaud him for being that vulnerable. That's can't be an easy thing to admit to anybody outside of your family, let alone publicly on video and to a city that's been waiting to hear from you for so long. Really awesome to have him come out, and good to have a little bit of that cloud aired up. And then beyond that, we could just only talk about the football side of things. And kind of despite the mental things that he was going through and the situation that he had that made him unavailable for the end of the season, you still have to question a little bit of the availability in terms of health on the Colts side.
Sure.
So you still have to plan a little bit for that. I don't think the story that came out and the reasons behind for why he was gone should change your plans at all if you're the Colts in terms of your draft strategy. I don't think you feel any more or less secure about his long-term future than you did if you were just dealing with the injury history of the past. So I think that's kind of a non-factor there. So I can only approach it from a football side of things. Again, great story by Joel Erickson of Indy Star to put that out there, and really, really cool to see a franchise that's been on the cutting edge of mental health awareness and the Kicking the Stigma campaign, and just continue to the things that they said about the Colts organization, Braden Smith, about how they treated him and how he had heard from other NFL players that had been going through some other mental struggles in other organizations that did not treat them with the respect and kind of the concern that the Colts had given Braden Smith and his family throughout that process is cool to hear.
Yeah, and just because we do have a super chat here, we're gonna get to the other massive piece of news, and we got to make this one quick. But the Indianapolis Colts released Matt Gay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember covering that breaking news, and I said, "Holy nothing else." I can't say it on live on the live stream, but wow, that was not what I was expecting. It now shows why the Colts had so much interest last year in Spencer Schrader,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're turning to Spencer Schrader. And you must have a lot of confidence because, look, man, Matt Gay, while he missed a lot of field goals deep, he only missed deep. He was perfect inside of 50, perfect from extra points. What was your gut reaction when that happened? Because I honestly, now I can understand. First off, the contract is just ridiculous. Yeah. The fact that they gave him $22.5 million over 4 years to kick a football. That's Chris Ballard making a really stupid move, in my humble opinion. But also, I understand you had kicker issues, but now here you are with another kicker issue.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in his head, maybe it's an injury, but what are your thoughts on this? And do you think that potentially Spencer Schrader could be better?
Yeah. So I was a bit surprised for sure. I think we've both kind of championed, and I won't throw you under the bus with myself. I think maybe me a little bit more so that I was like, kicker's fine, don't worry about it. Colts obviously didn't feel that way. That's fine. They were concerned with the 50 plus and the inability to make that, but also Spencer Schrader's your only kicker on the roster now and has never attempted a kick in the NFL over 45 yards. So you're not sure if you're any certain or more certain about your ability to kick it deep now than you were before. They cut Matt Gay. The kicking situation isn't better. I wouldn't say it's better because of that.
Yeah.
They have room
No.
to add. You know, a guy with 5 career NFL kicks, you're not going to go into training camp with him being the only kicker on the roster. There will be another addition, whether it be a late round draft pick, an undrafted guy, or some veteran that's kicking around on the streets right now. There'll be an addition. There will be a legitimate kicking competition come training camp now. I think we need to touch on the salary cap implications. I was
Sure.
surprised because I thought that the way it was structured, I think they could have saved an additional $2 million if they had waited till June 1st to make that cut. And maybe that was their intention, and maybe they had sat down with Matt Gay and they knew that, and Matt Gay requested a release, and the Colts granted it. The Colts have always been kind of upfront in that situation, doing best by their players. So maybe that was a situation where Matt Gay and his agent took a look at their contract and the competition that was coming up and realized there was going to be a pretty big incentive for him to be cut during training camp. So maybe they wanted to get an early jump on that, start looking for some other opportunities, because he'll have a market and he'll be kicking in some NFL camp come training camp. So yeah, $2.75 million. It's not an extravagant amount of money that you're saving. It's not freeing up enough money for you to go get Trey Hendrickson. It's not letting you do any outrageous moves. And there were some other guys on the Colts roster, namely Rodney Thomas, who you could move on from and save about the same amount. So yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with the money in terms of the need for it right now to make a move. I don't think there's any corresponding move that's going to be happening other than some veteran or rookie kicker added later in the offseason.
Yeah, and I do notice that, Patrick here mentioned, it is still wild that a guy who was perfect from under 50 got cut. But yeah, we also have to say, Sarah, our prayers are with you, all of us on behalf of the Horseshoe Huddle, myself and
Yep.
Noah. We are so sorry about your dad. Okay, we are so sorry. Thank you so much for still spending time on this show. Our hearts are with your family. Our hearts are with you. And you know what? Again, thank you so much for your support. But yes, we are all deeply saddened with you, and you're not alone. You're not alone. So, but we got to get to the super chat here. DSG Goodbar finally throwing down, or for the final comment here. Thank you guys.
Finally throwing it
Yeah,
down.
you're finally giving something. I'm just kidding. He definitely has before. Thank you guys for all the hard work you put into the Horseshoe Huddle and your writing. You guys are an asset to the fandom. You guys are an asset to us. We appreciate all you guys. We are not a damn thing on this channel without the people who come and support us. You guys, and thank you so much for donating your hard-earned dollars to this. So, that's our show, guys. Thank you so much to Yim, Paul Wilson on 2 separate occasions, and of course, DSG Goodbar, Wyatt, Sarah, Patrick, so many people here, Chet, Teresa. And Teresa, just to answer your question, Andrew Moore is probably going to make a guest appearance on the live draft stream. Lindsay Mack, thank you so much for joining us live again. Sean Conkright, Darth Raider, all of you guys. If I'm missing anybody, Wyatt Law, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. But if you haven't, liked the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow Indianapolis Colts on SI, and on X, it's at Colts on _SI. My God. Subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube and click that bell to turn on all the notifications. If you want to listen to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, no problemo. Subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. So we will be back on Monday, and this time we're just going to be doing the same thing. We're just going to talk about defense. It's going to be safety, cornerback, linebacker, and then we'll also do defensive end and defensive tackle. There's going to be plenty of needs, more so actually for the defense than the offense. But until then, everybody, please enjoy your Thursday, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and we will be seeing all of you again at the start of next week. Take care.